Before we begin, I have just one request. Put on your headphones, turn off the lights, and let the world outside fade away. Because some stories aren't just meant to be heard, they're meant to be felt. Every whisper, every breath, every sound behind you might not be just in the story. So, are you ready? Let's begin. Beneath the floorboards, I never wanted to go back to that house. It stood like a rotting memory at the edge of the forest, a crooked figure slouched against the wind, windows like blind eyes, the paint peeling like skin. After my parents died in the accident, I swore I'd never return. But grief, like time, is never linear. Sometimes it loops, twists, and wraps its cold hands around your throat when you least expect it. That's what happened when I got the call. We need someone to clear the property. I was the only one left. No siblings, no cousins, just me and the house. I arrived on a gray October morning. The sky was the color of ashes, and the wind whispered through the trees like it remembered everything I wanted to forget. The key was rusted, and the lock groaned as I turned it. When the door creaked open, it smelled of dust, damp wood, and time. My childhood lived in those walls. So did something else. I felt it the moment I stepped inside. A presence. It wasn't welcoming, it was watching. The first night, I stayed in the guest room. The master bedroom felt like a mausoleum. I couldn't bring myself to sleep in my parents' bed, the bed where my mother used to hum lullabies through the walls, the bed where I once ran to when nightmares spilled into my dreams. Instead, I lay on the old mattress, staring at the ceiling, listening. The house groaned and shifted, like it was stretching after a long slumber. But then I heard it, the soft, rhythmic sound of footsteps on wood. Not above, not below, beneath, right under my floorboards. I sat up, breath caught in my throat. The sound stopped. I told myself it was the pipes, maybe mice, maybe my mind. I was wrong. The next morning, I started cleaning. The place was a mess. Newspapers from 2009 stacked in corners, cobwebs like gauze across the ceiling. But it wasn't the dust or decay that bothered me. It was the feeling. Every time I entered the hallway near the basement door, the air changed. It grew dense, colder, and I remembered how I was never allowed in the basement as a child. My father kept it locked, said it was unsafe, said it was his space. But my mother, she never spoke of it, never even looked at that door, like she was afraid of it. I found the key in my father's old drawer, wrapped in a napkin with the words, "Shro only if necessary." I wish I'd never touched it. That night, the footsteps came again, slower this time, deliberate. 1, 2, 3, 3. Then a pause. Scrape. It was like something was crawling, dragging itself beneath the floor. And then I heard it. A whisper. At first I thought it was the wind, but no, it came from below. And it said my name. Elias. I didn't sleep. I stared at the floor until dawn, heart hammering, the whisper echoing in my ears like a lullaby sung by the dead. I opened the basement door the next morning. It resisted me at first, the hinges stiff with rust. The air that poured out was damp and sour. I stood at the top of the stairs for a long time, staring into the dark. Then I went down. Each step groaned beneath my weight. The light switch didn't work. My flashlight barely pierced the black. The basement was filled with junk, broken furniture, old books, jars of God knows what. But in the far corner, half buried under a tarp, was a trapdoor. I'd never seen it before. Kneeling down, I reached for the handle, my fingers trembling. But before I could open it, I heard the whisper again, closer this time, angry. Don't. I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. The beam spun wildly, catching on something in the corner. A figure, tall, thin, its face hidden in shadow. I scrambled up the stairs and slammed the basement door shut, chest heaving, hands shaking. I told myself I imagined it, that my mind, weakened by grief and lack of sleep, was playing tricks on me. But I couldn't stop thinking about the whisper, the trapdoor, and the fact that I had heard my name. That night, I dreamed of her, my sister, Lena. She died when I was 10. They told me it was an accident, that she wandered into the forest and never came back. But I remembered the scream. I remembered the way my father came back hours later, clothes muddy, eyes hollow. I remembered the silence that followed, the basement that was suddenly off limits, the way my mother stopped smiling, and the way the walls whispered her name when I cried alone at night. In the dream, Lena stood at the edge of the woods, her dress torn, her eyes hollow. She opened her mouth and moths poured out. He buried me where the light can't find me, she said. I woke up screaming. I couldn't leave. Not yet. Something was clawing its way to the surface. Memories, truths, ghosts. I went back to the basement. The trapdoor was still there. This time, I opened it. The hinges screamed, and a foul stench erupted from below, earth and rot and something worse. A narrow tunnel led down, dirt walls, no light. I hesitated, and then I heard her voice again. Please. It was Lena. I followed it. Crawling through the tunnel, the air grew colder, thicker. My flashlight flickered, and then I found it. A small room carved into the earth, stone walls, chains on the floor, and a child's shoe, half buried in the dirt. I fell to my knees, sobbing. This was no storm cellar. This was a tomb. I heard footsteps behind me. Turning slowly, I expected the dark. Instead, I saw him, my father, or something wearing his face. But the eyes were wrong. Empty. Cold. Dead. You shouldn't have come down here, it said. And then it smiled. The walls began to close in. The whispers screamed. He buried her here. He buried us all. Hands erupted from the earth, clawing at my legs, pulling me down. I kicked and screamed, but the more I struggled, the deeper I sank. Then a light, warm, gentle, and a voice. Let him go. It was my mother. Her form appeared in the darkness, glowing softly, tears streaming down her cheeks. She knelt beside me, placed a hand on my chest. I'm sorry, Elias. I should have stopped him. I should have protected you both. The darkness recoiled. My father's form twisted, shrieked, and crumbled into dust. The hands released me, and for a moment, the silence was kind. I crawled back up into the basement, coughing, weeping. The trapdoor closed behind me. I sealed it with chains. I burned the key, and I left the house the next morning, never to return. They demolished the house 6 months later, said it was unstable, dangerous. I didn't attend. I couldn't. But sometimes, late at night, I hear her voice in the wind. Thank you. And I know Lena's at peace, but I will never be. Because now I remember everything. The laughter, the screams, the whispers in the walls, and I know what I am, the one who lived.